Well, joining me now to help us dive deeper into the forum is Yan Liang. She is the Endowed Chair and Professor of Economics at Willamette University. Thank you so much, Professor, for coming on the show today.
Good to talk to you, Frances.
Well, give us more of a sense of what the overall goal of this forum is and why it is so important to establishing China's financial policy.
Yeah, so I think this year's theme is Forge Ahead towards a shared future, economic development, and financial cooperation and changes. So the topics that are featured include high-quality development, empowering the real economy, servicing the rural revitalization and high-level opening up, and last but not the least, the fintech innovations. So I think what is clear is the regulators recognize the importance of harnessing finance to help to promote high-level development, innovations, green transition, and also that cross-national, financial cooperation and innovations.
You mentioned some of those themes there, economic development, financial cooperation. Can you talk more specifically about what will be discussed in these specific arenas and what might we expect once the forum ends?
Right. So, for example, I think what is important in facing China in terms of economic challenges now, one has to do with, for example, how to support the real estate sector, right, without going back to that heavy indebtedness as in the past. So in this case, the central bank is really carefully navigating, providing sufficient liquidity to viable, developers to allow them to finish the uncompleted projects. For example, the central bank has directed about $30 billion of loans to these viable developers to finish their incomplete loans. That's one example of how to use the finance to help with the real sector. The other example is the central bank now has mobilized this about $60 billion of the so-called carbon reduction loans to promote the kind of green energy transition and construction. And so that, again, would help to build that sustainable future. And when it comes to, cross-border transactions, since May, June this year, the Chinese government allows for the so-called qualified institutional investors to invest in China's exchange bond market. And so that, in some ways, really helped to introduce foreign inflows of capital.
As you mentioned, this forum is taking place amid some major changes in the global economy right now. We have inflation, we have this continued recovery from the COVID pandemic. So how are these being discussed, these issues, in the context of these major challenges?
Right. So I think as we heard, the governor of the PBOC, has spoken. So they recognize, we need to use the monetary tools to help to provide, finance to the much needed economies, especially, for example, the SMEs, the small and medium-sized enterprises, because they are the backbone of the economy and they're really under stress because of pandemic, COVID restrictions, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of efforts, relending facilities being built up to help to provide, affordable financing to these small and medium-sized enterprises. So I think that is very helpful. At the same time, I think the emphasis is put on, financial regulations, prudent monetary policy. So we need to maintain financial stability to avoid the kinds of, financial crises or debt crises that we've seen in the developing countries and the recent cryptocurrency fiasco in the United States.
Although this is taking place in China, of course, everything has ramifications internationally. So if you could just explain why this forum is so significant on the international scale, on the global scale. What should people outside of China, why should they be paying attention to what goes on at this forum?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for one, as China is taking on such an important weight in the global economy, it's important for China to maintain financial stability and to harness finance to serve the real economy, to promote economic recovery. At the same time, I think as China opens up the financial markets, for example, lifting the foreign ownership restrictions or relaxing those restrictions in various financial sectors, including bonds, insurance, securities markets, I think it provides very attractive opportunities for global investors. So I think it's noteworthy, right, that in the first 10 months of this year, despite economic slowdown, China has attracted a lot of foreign direct investment that has gone up by 17% year on year. So I think again, it's important for China to maintain financial stability and also provide the financial opportunities for the rest of the world to improve their financial growth and also the use of financial tools to support their economic recovery.